Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today it's time for another client lesson update. And quite a few of you have said that these videos are your favorite segment, particularly some of the coaches and trainers out there. So if you fall in that category, please click like down below. Help keep the likes higher than the dislikes to offset the dislike bot. That will be greatly appreciated. But over to the point. One of the common themes that I have, because I work with a wide variety of clients, and again, I haven't discussed in the past my exact numbers. I will a little bit now. At this moment, like as of today, right now, I have 17 clients who are paying. They're paid up. They're current. Obviously, I've had clients who dropped out. So again, I've seen people try to be critical. Oh, you claim none of your clients are below. That's not true. It's not true. I've had 6 dropouts over the course of months and months, over 7 months of doing this, and that happens. But most of them obviously paid for quite a bit of time and got results. It's financial things, life situations, things come up. Not everyone can afford to pay a coach $250 a month year round. Okay, life happens, things happen, they get in the way. So over to the point though, I've got a pretty diverse group of people. And what's interesting is that the problem I run into is usually people who have been novices or been stuck in a novice phase and who never ever reached like a late intermediate phase. They all have common problems in their mindset. And people like me and other people are largely to blame for that because we put so much good novice information out there that we've taught the community to think like novices. I'm guilty of it. Guys like Ribito are guilty of it. All those people is that we put people into this paradigm of the best way to think for a novice lifter. And it is the best way to think. It doesn't work anymore when you're no longer a novice though. And that's the problem we have is that we've created amazing training philosophies to get people through their new gains that work. Well, they become a problem when someone's no longer a novice if they still think like a novice, right? And it's like any other endeavor you do in life. You have different mental states and toolkits that are associated with it, and that's one of them. And what's interesting is that my advanced guys don't have these problems. My advanced guys get it because I have guys who have come to me who already had advanced numbers, and I've got them PRing again. They've been haven't PR'd in 6 months or a year. Like, okay, I need to hire a coach, and they're followers of my channel, and we get them moving again. You know, and what do I define as advanced? If you can squat over 400 and you can deadlift 500 plus, you're an advanced lifter by any metric. Okay, you're an advanced lifter. But you know, when you take those people and you put 30 pounds on their squat and 50 pounds on their deadlift in a few months, when they haven't been able to gain anything for a year, you know, they're happy again. But it's easy to get them to understand these concepts because they've been training a long time. Right? They've usually been training quite a long time. And the problem we have is that guys who have run novice programs get stuck in their head linear progression weight on the bar. The problem is they get stuck in their head is that the weight on the bar is our only metric of performance or workload. And some guys say, oh, well, you mean you could add reps too? Well, no, that's not the only metric either. What do I mean? Why do we put weight on the bar? And that's a serious question. And this is the thing that will then throw the novices off because they get caught in this paradigm. Why do we add weight on the bar? And they'll say, oh, to gain more muscle. Well, no. You don't gain more muscle just because you put 5 more pounds on a barbell and lifted it. Do you really think that you gain more muscle just because of that? No. The ability to put 5 more pounds on the bar tells me you probably gained some muscle. Adding the weight doesn't. It's the quality of the reps. But let's come back over. Why do we put weight on the bar? To increase tension on the muscle. Okay, great. Why does that matter? Okay, now we're getting somewhere. We have to produce more force to move against that tension, to produce more force. But is force only about pounds? No, force is also about bar speed. It's about movement. It's about range of motion. How far did you move it? And when I say how far, how many degrees of joint angle? Not just how many inches or centimeters did you move that weight. That's a factor in physics. And we can start talking about bad form in a minute and cutting range of motion to add weight to the bar. Is that always progress? Is that always increasing the workload? Because it is about work done. How about how many degrees of joint angle you moved it through? Okay, we're talking about workload, force production, how much distance you moved a weight, a total amount, right? Because if you move the same weight, 14 inches versus 10, is the workload, is the force production same? No, it's not. It's different. If you have to move it further, you've done more work. Well, let's come over to the speed issue. I get lifters who are like, well, I need to be able to add weight, but then the bar speed slows down. And here's the honest question I would ask you. If you do a pin lay rows in particular, my guys always want to add weight on pin lay rows, which is a movement that the second you get too heavy, your form breaks down. You have to cheat. Did you put more tension on the muscles when you turned it into a cheat rep? Which also reduces the range of motion? No. You're using other muscles that are only moving through very short ranges of motion. If you're using glutes and hips to help lift a light ass weight like 150 pounds, you're not contributing to their growth. They don't matter. You're doing a 10 or 15 degree joint movement, a very short partial with a very big powerful muscle to take weight off your lats because your lats are not capable of moving the weight. And then you reduce the range of motion on your lats. Have you done anything? No. You've reduced range of motion. You've reduced tension by adding weight. Let's come back over to the other point, bar speed. If I put weight on your box squat and your speed slows 20%, did we increase force production? Because that's why we increase tension. We increase tension to increase force production. That is the purpose. Now, obviously, weight on the bar is how we measure strength as a display of strength, but we're talking about creating a training response, an adaptation in the body. If I put 10 more pounds on the barbell and you move it slower, did we get a larger training response? Probably not. You didn't produce any more force. If you do 5 sets of 5 on a bench press or a box squat with 10 pounds more, but your bar speed slows down visibly to do so, you didn't produce more force on that 5 sets of 5. You didn't do more work. You didn't stimulate more muscle growth, and have we just taken 10 pounds off? So the problem I have with a lot of my guys, or they want to add weight, they're like, but I can handle this weight, coach, and then they'll get mad. You reduce it 5 pounds on them. You're like, no, you can't handle it. Your form looks like shit. It does. You're flopping. You're cheating. Get it back under control. But then in their mind, because their thought is they've been taught weight on the bar, progression, linear progression, because that works as long as form, bar speed, and range of motion stay constant. If none of those things change and you change the weight on the bar, you've now have more tension and you've created more force and you've had more workload, right? But if any of those other things change, it doesn't represent an increase. It doesn't represent an increase in a larger training response. If your form has to change, if your bar speed changes, or your range of motion changes. It does not represent a larger training response or a better contraction or more force production or more muscle fibers recruited if any of those variables change to compensate for the extra weight. It's not just form. People say, oh, you just mean good form. No, I mean bar speed. I mean range of motion, because guys will cut range of motion. Okay? It matters. Especially when you don't have a box and they squat. Guys will start cutting weight when you add. They'll cut inches out of the bottom. Even on the box. If a guy barely taps the box and comes back up, and it's slow because we've added weight versus he's able to sit back onto the box and then explode up, have we recruited any more muscle fibers? No, it doesn't represent progress at all. But it's hard to get them to understand this concept, okay? The weight on the bar is one variable. Now with novice lifters for cookie cutter programs, this works well. Why? Because it gives them an objective metric that they can see. Because if you were to go write starting strength and you hand a bunch of novices and you start talking about bar speeds and pauses and exact joint angles you move the weight, this is too much for them to get their heads around. these are not as objective. They can't measure this, okay? Because the average gym goer or novice lifter does not have the equipment to measure bar speed. He doesn't even film all his lifts and run it through a processor to see how many fractions of a second it took for him to squat that weight, to compare workout to workout. Do you think they do that? I do that. Do you think anybody out there who's read Starting Strength or ran any of my novice programs does that? I promise you none of them do. Weight on the bar gives an objective metric. But when you're coaching lifters and they now have the watchful eye of a coach, we now account for all of those things. We look for a shift in their form. We look at the difference of how much we think they're getting out of that touch and go on the bench. Are they tapping? What's their bar path look like when we adjust weight? What is their bar speed? How fast are they moving it? Okay. This matters. It matters a lot. And that's the difference between a novice lifter running a cookie cutter program that they can probably get away with on their own and make gains versus a coach or a trainer watching what they're doing. Because in my case, my guys film their lifts. I assess their lifts every single week, their videos, and then we get in Skype and we discuss what they're doing. It's not handing someone a spreadsheet and saying, I'll see you again in a month. Okay, that's not coaching. But again, guys can't always get their head around this, and there can be a struggle with it until you teach them these things. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.